Hello, this is Annette with Project Refine Life. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this VR to Chrissy Bentley. The VR is 7 decks for 7 chakras. Now, the premise of Chrissy's original video was that she was going to undertake, or she was in the midst of undertaking, a new form of her daily practice where she was using her deck, which is the Narrative Alchemy Tarot, to pull a card and see where the deck led her. So Chrissy's deck is based on chakras. So all of the colors here in the deck have to do or correlate with one of the chakras, one of the 7 chakras. They also correlate with tarot, and you can use this deck so many different ways because so many times I use this deck as an oracle deck, sometimes I use it as a tarot deck, but I love to have that feeling of the chakras and digging into that meaning of the reading along with whatever else I'm doing. So what she's been doing is she's been pulling a card. So here we are, here's a green card. So that would relate to the heart chakra. And at that point, you would pull a tarot deck for your reading that correlates to the heart chakra, something that represents that elemental energy of the heart chakra. She has stated on her video that you don't have to have her deck in order to do this type of practice. You can simply use your color associations for your chakras. Now, another deck that I'd like to recommend is the Infinite Wisdom of the Chakras. This is a chakra-based deck. I have a full walkthrough of it. And this is a really easy to get a hold of deck. You can go onto Amazon and have it the next day. At the beginning of the deck, you just have your 7 chakras, and then each chakra has 5 cards for each chakra. So this is another option for you if you really want to have a card to represent that chakra energy for you. So we're going to go ahead and start off with 3 cards that represent the root chakra out of Chrissy's deck. Prompt number 1 is Root, a deck that connects you to your physical body, sense of stability, and belonging. So from her deck, I chose Origin, Structure, and Grounded, just to give you an idea or a deeper idea of the root chakra. So the root chakra represents our foundation, our body, our rooting into who we are. The root chakra sits at the base of the spine and gives us a feeling of being grounded and feeling confident in our ability and within our challenges and to be stable. So I chose the Tarot Yohali Iteka. Now, I've shared this deck many times. This is one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely adore this deck. The Tarot Yohali Iteka, in case you haven't seen it, this deck reflects my Mexica and indigenous spiritual roots. It contains Toltec gods and deities, and it is just almost like a celebration of my heritage, of my beliefs, my practices, and it really does ground me. Remember, this is a personal choice for me. It grounds me into who I am and where I come from. And it is such a beautiful earth-based deck. So the root chakra is an earth element. And it's all about survival and independence and just caring for your basic needs. So for me, the Tarot Yohali Iteka really does describe that grounding, that rooting for me, that, I don't know, this deck does it. This deck is the one that steps in and just provides that foundation for me. So again, this is the Tarot Yohali Iteka. The Sacral Chakra, a deck that puts you in touch with your emotions and creativity. The sacral chakra is all about that element of water, a place where you create, a place where you have this sense of well-being and pleasure and sexuality. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of trauma that gets stuck within that place as well. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it has to do with your DNA and everything that's been passed down. So for this deck, I chose the Tarot Avatara by Gabby Angus West. I could not think of any other deck that I would rather put in this place for the sacral chakra, where we're talking about creativity and where we're talking about pleasure and joy, than this deck. Frida, we're talking about Frida Kahlo, guys, and she lived her life joyfully. She was in pain. She did experience a lot within her life. There was a lot of trauma, but she continued to create, and she allowed that to lead her way to creativity and to being in abundance and to being in joy. I just could not think of any other deck that I would rather place in this position than the Tarot Avatara. Now, for me, this does somewhat have this element of fire. However, there's so much emotion in this deck that after really thinking about this prompt, and when I thought about this, I'm like, you know what? This deck, although it has so much passion and fire, it really is elementally water, because just of so much emotion that's wrapped up into Frida and her life and her love and everything that she experienced. So for me, this is the Tarot Avatara. The third chakra, the solar plexus, a deck that helps you follow your passion, purpose, and power. So this is really about how I show up for the world, or how I want to show up for the world. And I have to say that choosing this one took me a little bit more time, but once I really looked into my collection, once again, it was very clear to me that this was the deck to choose. So I'm talking about the Serpent Fire Tarot. From Chrissy's deck, I chose Momentum, Confidence, and Purpose. So this is all about self-confidence and self-esteem. And this deck, there is no way. This is so full, 100% of fire. This deck is just amazing. And this deck is all about showing up exactly as you are. No shame, containing all of your feelings, being confident and unapologetic in your approach. I love this deck, and when I need a little boost for self-confidence, using this serpent fire, this kundalini energy to rise up through me, to remind me of who I am, this is the deck. And this is really the way that I want to show up in the world. I want it to be with a sense of gentleness. However, I don't want it to be shy. I don't want it to be tamed. I don't want it to be watered down. I want people to know that I'm here. I want people to understand my presence and what I'm doing. I don't want to overtake something. However, this deck is just all of that. Like, she's not getting in anybody else's way. She's just showing up for herself. So I love this about this deck, and that is the Serpent Fire Tarot. The Heart Chakra, a deck that provides insight on how you give and receive love. From Chrissy's deck, I chose Vulnerability, Hope, and Understanding. And my deck selection is the Gentle Tarot. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you know how much I absolutely adore this deck. This deck is all kinds of beautiful to me. I just can't get enough of Mari's work. This deck shows up with hope, with love, with understanding, with vulnerability, on every single level. The heart chakra is all about loving yourself and loving others, loving the earth, loving all things that exist. Once you have that beautiful, wonderful acceptance, that joy, that inner peace, it just burst. And I just can't explain the heart chakra. If I was explaining it through a deck, I couldn't explain it any better than Mari's work. This deck is all about loving yourself, loving other beings, all the beings on the land, in the water, being a keeper of the earth. It clearly depicts reciprocity on every single level. This deck is just beautiful on so many levels and completely describes the heart chakra. So that is the Gentle Tarot. For the throat chakra, a deck that helps you receive and present information more clearly. For this deck, I chose the Way Home Tarot. Now, the Way Home Tarot is one of the clearest reading decks that I have. Not only are the cards themselves full of white space, which gives you that airy feel, which is the element of the throat chakra, but just the way that it reads, it is upfront with you, but it's not harsh. Now, when you are not balanced in the throat chakra, as you can see, I chose 3 cards from Chrissy's deck: Messy, Stirring, and Trust. And things can be messy. If your throat chakra is not in alignment, you can be messy with your words. You can fail to listen. You can maybe trust too much, or maybe you trust too little. There is a lot of things that stir up within the throat and maybe get blocked or maybe are not revealed because of your lack of trust. And this particular deck is one of those decks that I come to when I just want to hear things straight and clear. It is so easy to work with. It is so clear. Its voice is just beautiful. It gives a beautiful expression of whatever it is that I'm working with, and that is the throat chakra. It's easy to find what it's trying to tell me. So for me, this is the Way Home Tarot. The Third Eye, a deck that brings you in touch with your intention and inner knowing. So from Chrissy's deck, I chose Focus, Inspiration, and Magic. And my deck of choice is the lovely Om Tarot, Divine Guidance for Personal and Spiritual Growth. This tarot deck is simply beautiful. And it is a deck that really does help you find clarity, help you focus. It helps you work with your inner thoughts. It helps you trust your magic and open up those spaces that sometimes you doubt. This is that deck that you come to when you need to trust your inner wisdom and to be open to exploring and seeing what is not clearly visible. This is the deck that I come to for that type of work, and this is the lovely Om Tarot. The Crown Chakra, a deck that helps you connect to Source, the divine, however you define the energy bigger than us. So I had to make a choice here, and it was a really tough choice, but when I think about the Crown Chakra, I relate it to Reiki, and the deck that I relate to Reiki is the Dream Dust Shamanic Tarot. For me, this is the deck that really does help me tune in to my intuition, to again find this clarity, and also through my devotion to Reiki, it helps me with this beautiful liberation where I'm able to just trust the divine. And even though it may be a mystery to me as to how and why it works, it does work. And this particular deck, with all its beautiful colors, with all of its beautiful shapes, you know, it's not clear if you look at it. If you're looking for an actual RWS type of translation within this deck, you're not going to find it. You really have to just trust what's going on. The colors as they appear, the beautiful mix of swatches within the paint. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. However, you're looking at this deck and it may not translate to you, but you know that when you look at this, when you're working with this deck, you're trusting that whatever it is that's on here, it is that connection, that one that can't be described, the one that you just access this higher level of consciousness with. This deck is really, really a beautiful and amazing deck. And to me, the absolute essence of the crown chakra. So those are my 7 decks for the 7 chakras, and I am going to go ahead and put this into use at least for 7 days and see how I like working with those 7 decks in relation to this deck, using this as my inspiration and then pulling from one of those decks. So let's see how it goes. I'll let you know at the end of the month. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. From my heart to yours, I will see you later.